topic for this competition. How you perceive the world is in your own hands, leading to either a complete principle or be considered a poorly conceived fallacy. Followers of Buddhists go towards the Four Noble Truths, which leads to the way to the start and resolving of suffering. It is not a mere sensation, nor is it an emotion like sadness. It's a state that encompasses our entire mind, not formed by just negativity, but the thoughts and quality of our consciousness itself. Every human experience sees these stages awaiting an end. Before I begin explaining about all Four Noble Truths, we will need to know how this foundation was formed. The iconic Buddha was the reason we have followed his ways, but it was before he was considered that name to uncover the truth. His birth name was Siddhartha Gautama, and was raised by wealthy parents who hoped his son would not face the realities of the world and choose a religious life. He was projected to be a wise philosopher or a future leader of the palace. They gave him continuous luxury to support him to be attached to things of pleasure. Once he was 29, he went out through 4 journeys, anticipating a warming welcome from the places he visited. This would instead be his discovery of what suffering is like and the disturbing dark reality. Seeing an elderly, helpless man, a man troubled by a disease, and a dead man ready to be put into cremation. He grieved all of those moments of self, traumatized by these miserable events. On his final trip, he saw a religious mendicant, a person who relies exclusively on alms to survive, who led a life based on meditation. All these encounters motivated him to seek the solution to all the problems caused by suffering. To do this, he left his wife, child, luxurious lifestyle, and future role as a leader. They accepted his absence for the world's good. Buddha's first sermon after enlightenment disciplined on the Four Noble Truths. The truths read as the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the path that frees us from suffering. The first noble truth explains that life is full of inevitable suffering. Even when we are not suffering from physical causes like illness, we are always unfulfilled and unsatisfied. Some people would consider it a pessimistic philosophy, but however, the emphasis of suffering is not intended to present that type of view in life, but rather to present a realistic assessment of the human condition. It claims that all beings must experience suffering at some point of their lives. The second noble truth explains what lies at the root of suffering. With the context of the Four Noble Truths, the source of dukkha is said that as craving or thirst conditioned by ignorance. Our suffering also comes from the denial of our divine nature, the lack of appreciation of our connection to all things, our resistance to impermanence, and our addictions to things that only give us temporary relief. The second truth is not suggesting that we must give up everything to find happiness. The real issue here is more subtle. It's the attachment to what we desire that gets us in trouble. We attach to not only physical things, but to also ideas and opinions about ourselves and the world around us. And then we gain frustration out of envy since the world won't behave the way we think it should. The third noble truth explains that a full cessation of suffering is possible. The Buddha's teachings are like a physician diagnosing an illness and prescribing treatment. The first tells what the illness is, second explains what causes the illness, and third gives hope for a remedy. The obvious solution to suffering is to refrain from clinging to certain things, but it seems very difficult to us. The fact is that you cannot simply be accomplished by an act of will. It's impossible to vow to your own self. The conditions that give rise to craving will still exist. Many people cling on to one thing to another, which will never completely satisfy us since, like I said before, it's all impermanent. It is just a matter of action speaking louder than words. When we can see ourselves stop this grasping, craving will basically disappear at its own accord. The fourth noble truth explains the trail that will free us from suffering. Buddha spent more than 45 years giving sermons on aspects on the Four Noble Truths. The majority of them were from the path. To the reference before, the fourth is Buddha as the physician prescribing the treatment for the illness. The Eightfold Path, it is usually presented as a list of things that are of right view and right intention. The path is completed by 8 broad areas of practice that touch every part of our lives. They are not to be mastered one at a time, but practiced all at once. Each aspect of the path reinforces every other aspect. The path is also considered the middle path because it is to avoid two extremes consisting of the search for happiness. Buddha realized that the middle path gives vision and knowledge leading to nirvana. In conclusion, Buddha's journey to the current structure of his religion has been an effect to all of its followers. Its stages toward living a balanced life are logical and do not lack validation. Almost everything about the religion is more clear about this philosophy. This concept also indicates that the fact that we all have a lack of satisfaction, a sense that never measures up to our expectations. Story, adventure, and a belief has been captured throughout all of us. Thank you for the Nepalese Buddhist Association for giving me this opportunity.